All right, so let's start. Welcome everybody to our member to member session. Today we're speaking with Just Evotec Biologics, a company that is redefining how biologic medicines are designed and manufactured. As pioneers in fully integrated continuous bioprocessing, and the creators of the modular J-Pod facility concept, they are transforming both the speed and the cost at which advanced therapies can reach patients. And we're going to explore today how their technology works, what makes their approach so innovative, and why these developments matter for our life science ecosystem here at bioRN. I'm Stephanie Füller, and I'm happy to welcome Nick Hutchinson here. He's Vice President Business Development at Just Evotec Biologics. Nick, great to have you here. Let's begin with a light warm-up. Could you introduce yourself and tell us how you became part of Just Evotec Biologics?
Yes, of course. Thank you very much for the very kind introduction, Stephanie, and also the opportunity to talk here today. As you said, Nick Hutchinson. I have been with the Just Evotec organization for 2 years now, and I've always worked in the biologics manufacturing right from the beginning of my career. And as I was studying for my doctorate in bioprocessing, one of the, I've always been interested in the more innovative aspects of it. In recent years, I got particularly interested in how we could change really the paradigm around how we manufacture biological medicines. And I think continuous manufacturing is one of those key areas. So I was really pleased a couple of years ago to have the opportunity to join the Just Evotec organization.
Wonderful. Thank you for this personal insights. Let's start with the company's beginnings. When and how was Just Evotec founded and by whom? And what was the vision of the founders at that time?
Yeah, so great question. So Just Biotherapeutics was the original organization. And that was
Mm,
a company that was founded in Seattle back in 2014. So really, the company's around approximately 10 years old, 11 years old. And it was formed by a group of executives that had come out of the Amgen company. So tremendous
mm,
track record of manufacturing, of developing and manufacturing biologics. There was a gentleman there who was one of the leaders. He was called Jim Thomas, and he'd worked on a number of the big, successful biotherapeutics and played a leadership role at Amgen. And he and his founding team essentially wanted to put together an organization that could work with technologies that would allow protein design, the development of manufacturing processes, and manufacturing plant design to really look at accelerating the development of biologics, but also to reduce the production cost significantly. So the company then managed to raise funding. One of those key
mhm.
funding partners was actually the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And again, there's that link because of the shared mission, really, of reducing the cost of biologics. And Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation was really around trying to reduce the cost of biologics for use in treating infectious diseases, for example, in developing countries. And then really, as the company looked to scale it, it needed additional investments. And it was acquired just before the pandemic in 2019 by Evotec, who you'll know is the Hamburg-based contract research organization. And it became that biologics manufacturing organization for Evotec and strengthened Evotec's position in biologics research in general.
Right. So building on this origin story, how has the company evolved since then? And what major developments or technological milestones set Just Evotec apart from traditional CDMOs?
So it's really around this
Mm,
continuous manufacturing
mm,
platform. So many people have traditionally used fed batch manufacturing as a way of manufacturing biologics. But we think that this is a technology that is ripe for disruption. So this space is ripe for disruption. Um, there's a number of people and companies around the world which are looking to develop continuous manufacturing platforms. And if you search the internet, you'll find people with these platforms. But there's very few, and I don't think any, that have actually taken this out of the lab, out of the
Mm,
pilot environment, and installed it into not one, but actually three facilities around the world where we are manufacturing biologics according to GMP, good manufacturing
mm,
practices, and have such a track record of manufacturing over 50 molecules on the platform, all of them related to antibodies in some way, so Fc fusions or bispecifics or multispecifics. But we're now getting this diverse group of molecules that we've worked on and have manufactured successfully in this way. I think that's a very unique thing that Just
mm.
Evotec Biologics can claim.
Great. Before I move forward, I just wanted to say to the audience, you're welcome to ask your questions in the chat, and I'm going to take them later at the end of our interview, and we can just discuss the attendees' question then. So moving forward, that brings us to one of your core strengths, integration, Nick. How do you combine discovery, cell line development, process design, and GMP manufacturing?
Yeah, that's right. So I think to achieve really the low cost of goods and the high
Mm,
productivity that the technology is designed to deliver, we need to work on a few different elements. So it's
mm,
not just about how we set up the production platform itself, but for example, selecting the right variant of the lead candidate is very
mm,
important. So we have in silico and in vitro tools that will help companies select the right candidates, or if they've already got a candidate, we can screen that for particular liabilities that will make it less manufacturable and actually help repair those by suggesting substitutions in the amino acid chain that would allow it to have greater stability. And then, as you mentioned, we've got our own CHOK1 cell line.
mhm,
It's a very recently developed cell line, so we have a lot of intellectual property around the vectors we use. We have our own cell culture media, which again is optimized for cost. So you can't simply take well, you could take a fed batch media and use it in perfusion, but it will be a very expensive thing to do. So that's not really necessary to have such a rich media. It makes much more sense to have a much leaner media because you will be continually supplying it into the process. It's not going to exhaust the nutrients. Then, of course, we have the continuous manufacturing platform itself. And all of this is encased, if you like, within a specially designed GMP facility, big ballroom facility with production on demand modules inside that. I think we'll probably come on to that in a bit more detail later.
right.
It's
Yeah.
really, we integrate all these technologies really to get the maximum productivity from the process.
So that's already, you mentioned then the unique selling point, of course, so we can move directly forward to science and technical innovation. And let's dig a bit deeper into that side. So could you give us insights into the technological or process innovations behind your approach? What makes your science then so special?
Yeah, so as I mentioned the molecular design aspect, we've applied artificial intelligence
Mm,
to that approach, really
mm,
to look at optimizing the protein structure. We talked a little bit about the cell lines already, but then we have this continuous manufacturing platform. So we have a perfusion upstream process, which we would typically run for 15 to 25 days.
mm,
Um, and then we are continuously capturing the product as it is created in the bioreactor. And again, this is a little bit unusual. So in fed batch, you would run it, you would have the protein sat around in the bioreactor for up to 14 days. And that can degrade the product quality because there are enzymatic and chemical processes that lead to the degradation of molecules. We're continuously removing it with a continuous capture step, and then we can continuously process that material through to the drug substance, the final drug substance. It's really important is what you're getting is very high productivity with a relatively small footprint of equipment, and that in turn allows you to manufacture in a small footprint in very small clean rooms. The clean rooms are a big cost driver, and so that can be have a lot of implications for reducing the costs. So those are really the key technologies, and what you need to do. Our manufacturing platform really uses in some ways quite conventional types of separation. For example, we use protein A resins, which if you work with antibodies, you'd be very familiar with protein A's method of capturing antibodies from cell culture. But what's really key, I think, is the automation which links these unit operations, these steps in the process together, and ensures that they work cohesively together to consistently deliver the product.
Thank you very much. So a concept many people, of course, in our network are curious today to learn more about is how does your J.POD modular facility work in practice, and what benefits does it offer to your partners or clients?
Yeah. So behind me is the J.POD facility in Redmond. And like I say, it's what we've built is this large grade D ballroom. So having a grade D clean room is less expensive than having a higher grade clean room. And then because we've reduced the size of the manufacturing process, because it's highly intensified, we then actually perform the unit operations within the production on demand modules. And these modules can have a higher rating, so they can be grade B for a cell expansion or for the post-viral suite, and then probably grade C for the actual cell culture and much of the purification. So although they have a higher clean room classification, the footprint of those modules is small. And that is one of the things that's driving down the cost, but it also has environmental benefits because it requires less energy to run. And then some of the other benefits, as well as cost and the environmental benefits, include the speed with which we can increase capacity. So these production on demand modules and the single-use equipment we use are all manufactured off-site. So what we can do is we can essentially create the ballroom and then roll in new modules that have been manufactured off-site without having to close down the facility for a very long period of time. If you imagine the situation where people have kind of had difficulty predicting the demand in sales of their biologics, but need to ramp up capacity quickly, this kind of creates a really good a solution by which they can rapidly expand production, or we can rapidly expand production for them on their behalf. We can build new facilities, and again, these off-site construction techniques really allow new facilities to be brought online very quickly. So we think it really adds a lot of agility, especially in that situation where people are finding it difficult to predict how much capacity they're going to need in 5 or 10 years' time.
Sounds very impressive. And we have prepared a short video. You have prepared a short video where you can get a glimpse now into the J.POD facility. Yeah, let's start. Oh, okay, here we are back. Very impressive, the side there. Well, so let's move forward with the next question. There are no questions right now from the audience there. One of your stated goals is to make biologics more cost efficient and accessible, Nick, you mentioned. So to what extent does cost reduction play a role in your model, and how does it impact global patient access to biologic medicines?
Yeah, so it's a good question. I think in the past, I think it was a fair statement to say manufacturing costs didn't
Mm,
always make a huge contribution to the overall price, which was often linked to things like the development costs associated with the R&D and clinical development of biologics. But I think increasingly you see it as being a bigger driver. And that's because I think competition is increasing.
mm,
So you see competition from, so right now around the GLP drugs, for example, there's tremendous competition. I think that occurs with antibodies as well. So you see companies that are developing um, antibodies for the same indications. And so I think cost of manufacturing costs will play an increasingly important
mm,
role. You see that with biosimilar competition as well.
mm,
So, and I think we'll probably come on to that, but the increasing, that there's more and more biosimilars, which is probably a good thing for patients around the world, if we can be perfectly frank in terms of providing them with access to these medicines. But those companies do tend to compete more on price than they do on having a differentiated candidate. And then, of course, what we see as well as antibodies become more complex um, in terms of bispecifics and multispecifics, they become more highly engineered, and we see products that are so difficult to express and so fragile that we don't actually believe that they will become commercial molecules unless they can find a manufacturing pathway to get to that
mm.
point. We believe that our technology, being working in a continuous fashion, actually will provide that. So I think those are important points in terms of ensuring that there is greater access to medicines around the world.
Okay, so finally for this segment, what are the current drivers of your success? What would you say? And what challenges do you see ahead, whether technical, regulatory, or market related?
Yeah, so I think the major driver for our success is the fact that we are an innovation-based CDMO, and that's relatively uncommon, I think. I think many CDMOs are reactive to where their customers are at. They look at what how their customers manufacture, and then they implement the same technologies. We take the opposite approach. I think we have a technology leadership position, which is delivered by some extremely talented scientists
Mm,
at our sites. Again, coming from that Amgen heritage, really.
mm,
And I think that's really the benefit. So in addition to the fact that we've got this very differentiated platform, we have scientists and engineers that have worked on projects in the past that have solved challenges related to CMC, and really ensured that molecules get first to their phase 1 clinical trials, through the clinical trials, and then on towards commercialization. I think in terms of challenges, I think there are some economic headwinds in
mm,
Europe that I think we're all very aware of. It's relatively difficult for the startup community to get VC funding right now.
mm,
It's difficult to scale biotech companies. And that, of
mm,
course, will have an impact on us. But the major thing for us is really being able to scale the technology effectively and get it into as many people's hands as possible. So um, we are really looking at ways of trying to provide companies with access to the technology without us having to build 100 facilities around the world
Mm.
ourselves. So I think that that's probably one of the big challenges we have as an organization right now.
Thank you. So let's move to the news that recently
Yes.
got the industry's attention. You reached an agreement with Sandoz to sell your Toulouse site. Could you tell us more about this announcement and what does this transaction include?
Yeah, and it's important to clear up because some people, I think they see the headline and they instantly think
Mm.
Sandoz has acquired Just Evotec Biologics, and
Mm-hmm.
that is not correct. So Just Evotec Biologics is still open for business. We worked with Sandoz for a number of years. That's in the public domain, and we're very proud of that collaboration. It's a really an ideal company for us to work with because they have that similar mission to take biologics and provide access to biologics around the world. I believe that they really love the fact that we're delivering low cost manufacturing, which is again ideal for their business. And continuous manufacturing provides companies that are looking to control product quality very carefully with a number of levers with which to pull to make sure that they get the right PQ, the right product quality. Of course, that's incredibly important for biosimilar organizations as they need to match the innovator molecules product quality attributes. So I think it's a great validation of the technology, and we're very excited about that. They were using the Toulouse facility very heavily, and they've taken the decision to purchase the site in Toulouse, which we're very proud of, and we're looking forward to working with other organizations that may be interested in a similar model to help establish continuous manufacturing as something that is much more widely used within the industry.
Okay. So how could this transaction pave the way for additional deals that enable manufacturing biologics closer to patients, especially within Europe?
Yeah, so I think we there's a number of ways. I think in terms of companies that are looking or organizations that are looking to install their own capability, they have maybe a facility shell already, but they're looking at what kind of platform they install. So I think we can provide that platform. We can provide the automation and the equipment designs. We can act as consultants as to how to best build out that facility. In terms of some companies we are talking to, for example, have a facility already, but they want to use that space more effectively. So it's really a retrofit of an existing facility. Or then, as is the case of Toulouse, maybe it's a whole new building. And again, that's a significant investment. But we believe that's something that some of our partners in Europe and outside of Europe and across the world will be interested in pursuing to really get what we consider as being the manufacturing technology of the future, and move us away from having these very large stainless steel facilities, of which there are a limited number, and they're spread all over, spread in different countries and so forth. So I think we're providing an alternative solution. And so it's really about licensing that technology that we have and leveraging our know-how and expertise.
So who might be your ideal partners then in the future?
Well, I think some of the large pharma will be ideal partners for the larger facilities, like the one that's behind me on the screensaver. I think that's kind of clear. But also there are smaller companies that maybe don't have their own manufacturing capability that are looking to establish that. I've had some conversations just last week with a couple of organizations that were in that position. We can provide even a single train, because the facility behind us will actually have, and maybe you saw it from the video, it actually runs 3 production trains. So it produces a large amount of material. But if you're looking to establish maybe phase 1 manufacturing at your site, again, that will be a concept that we can help you deliver at your location.
Brings me to our last segment of questions. Let's connect all this to our ecosystem. You're part of a strong innovation network like bioRN. How can you support our members, or what can you offer to small biotechs, to startups or academic labs or pharma companies?
Yeah, so I think about this a lot, and I think again, because of the somewhat challenging economic situation we're in, I think the services that I discussed at the beginning of this interview really around looking at how we can de-risk molecules, so we can, perform small packages of work that say provide real evidence that these molecules are going to have a smooth trajectory through their CMC progression. And I think that that's a very effective way of demonstrating to investors, kind of currently and in future, that you have a molecule, an antibody, or a related molecule that is ready for that journey. So even if it's challenging to raise the funding for maybe taking you to the phase one side of it, I think there's elements of de-risking the molecule right now is something that small companies should be really considering. Of course, the next step in that journey, and it can be uncoupled from an overall CMC project, but really to establish a cell line, for example, which is clonal, demonstrate that it's going to be highly productive. We find that companies that get their first cell line often have more material to work with for their R&D studies than they've ever had before. So it's relatively small scale for us, but often for startup biotech, it's quite large amounts of material. And again, you're just building that story, building that data package to put in front of investors so that when the funding situation improves, you can have a head start and you can be progressing towards your phase one clinical trials.
Thank you very much. So we have one question from Jan Dirk. He says, thank you, Nick, for this very interesting session. You mentioned continuous production. Do you also apply continuous protein A capture, for example, through SMB chromatography?
Yeah, fantastic question. Yeah, absolutely we do. That's exactly the approach that we use. So for the capture step, we use the BioSMB technology, which is now from Sartorius. It was originally developed outside of Sartorius, but as you're probably aware, but that's how we capture the antibody protein. And then subsequent steps, we use different approaches. So we tend to use columns operated in parallel. So we don't use 3 SMB steps. We would usually only use one for capture, but we're finding that it works very well. There's quite a lot of heavy lifting around the automation, perhaps, but we find that it's a robust technology for capturing antibodies. So thank you for that question.
Great. So, okay. Jan says thank you as well. I have one question for smaller biotechs. Process complexity can feel sometimes overwhelming. So what would you say is the biggest misconception about continuous manufacturing or intensified processes?
Oh, wow. That's a good question, Stephanie. So the biggest misconception by far around continuous is that no one's doing it. So, obviously you've got a well-educated audience who will know now, especially now that is not the case. But I think there is a perception globally within the industry that continuous manufacturing is not available, that it's an R&D project that will become available in the next few years. I think hopefully what we've learned today is that is absolutely not the case. We have, like I say, we have over 50 projects manufactured on our platform within GMP, and probably there's an element that we do need to talk about, which is just the regulatory piece. So we don't currently, as we stand today, commercially manufacture with our platform. The facility, the JPod facility design is designed to manufacture commercially, and we are going through with one of our projects, we're going through a late phase program, and we expect that to be commercially manufactured in 2026.
Thank you very much, Nick. So we're coming to an end today. So my last question is, how can maybe our members of the bioRN network support you? Which types of collaborators are most helpful for you for your strategic development?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm particularly keen to be working with biopharmaceutical companies in this region.
Mm,
So in the Heidelberg and related regions, I think it's an area where we're perhaps not so well known.
mhm,
But we're really keen to work with both startups in terms of early phase development. We mentioned, the manufacturability assessment, cell line development, and then hopefully onto the phase one manufacture. But also equally, we're interested in talking to the large companies that are looking to install their own capability. So that will be and that will bring, additional antibody manufacturing capabilities to the region. And I think that will be very positive as well. And then, of course, we work a lot with consultants. So happy to have
mm,
those discussions. They really plan to be at the bioRN conference in February.
mhm.
So maybe we can continue those conversations at that event.
Great. So, and one other question came up from Sandra. Can you elaborate on the program that will become commercially available already?
Well, I can't say too much because of
Mm,
customer confidentiality, but we have our first program that is in late phase development. So they will begin. We expect to begin commercial manufacturing for them, like I say, in 2026. But it's an antibody project. It's one that we've been working on for some years with the team. Again, we're a relatively young organization, I think, in terms of around 10 years old. So there's a bit of a time like when you start a CDMO in terms of having the projects progress from early phase through to late
mm.
phase. But we're really seeing those projects reach that point now, and where we'll begin commercial manufacturing for them shortly.
So, thank you very much, Nick, for your openness and the depth of your insights. And I think this conversation has been extremely valuable for us and for all the participants today. And this video, as always, will be online as well. So spread the word. If you would like to just find more attendees or potential attendees that could not come today, so they will be able to just learn more about Just Evotec through the video. And with that, we close for today. See you hopefully. Nick, we're going to see each other at the live um, biomedical convention.
But
And the next M2M will be announced soon. Just go on our website. You find more information about further events. And with that, I say bye-bye. Wish you a wonderful Christmas season and hope to see you soon back in the ecosystem. Thank you. Bye-bye.
thanks, everyone.